And the pseudepigrapha, 4th Ezra, chapter 48. Therefore thou didst see a multitude gathered together in peace, but the survivors of thy people, even those who are found within my holy border, shall be saved.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. My name is Rawchaa, and I have with me here today Makaahla, Ahnah, the Meek One. He'll be doing all the scriptures, and he'll lead us off in the Shema. But first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to our Father, the Most High, AHAYAH, AHAYAH, Yashaya, Kadesh. You want to lead us off in the Shema?
Father, by your name, Yashaya, we ask you to send the Holy Spirit upon us. Shema Yasharallah, AHAYAH, AHAYAH Nawa, AHAYAH Akai.
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 Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one. The name of today's lesson is Get Out. Whether you're in Babylon or wherever else that the children of Israel has been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, it is now time to get out and seek refuge in the safe zone, within the borders, in the wilderness area. And we're going to go through a lot of scriptures today to show you exactly where that area is and give a little history on a couple of our ancestors and how they had to flee also at times in their lives. So, if they had to flee, then we're no different than them. And that's what we're going to bring out today. We're going to start off with our first scriptures with David and see how many times he had to flee before he became king and even after he became king. We're going to start off with the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, and we're going to hit verses, chapter 19 and verse 18. Whenever you're ready, Ahch.
1 Samuel, chapter 19, verse 18. So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel to Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth.
Okay, so he had to flee and run from Saul, And we have a couple more scriptures showing that he had to run from Saul quite a few times. And also his brother Absalom. Let's continue and hit chapter 18 and go through verses 6 through 20. Let's see just how many times King David had to flee. This is before he became King David, but after he was anointed by Samuel the prophet to be the next king of Israel.
1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 6. And it came to pass as they came when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine that the woman came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. Verse 7. And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s.
Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000s. And that brought a lot of anger to King Saul because David was getting more pub than he was. The women were making songs about David, and King Saul did not like it. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and Saul was very wroth, and saying, displease him. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed the thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. Verse 10, and it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from the Most High came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand, as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Verse 11. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David, even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice.
So Saul, with that javelin, must have been a beast with that javelin. He sought to kill David with the javelin twice. David had to get out of his way and run for safety. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And Saul was afraid of David because the Most High was with him and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captain over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. Verse 14. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Most High was with him. Verse 15. Wherefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him.
Okay, that's important. That he behaved himself very wisely. He kept the commandments of the Most High. And Saul saw that and saw that he was going to be the next king, and he really could not take it. Is that it for that script?
Verse 16.
Okay.
Verse 16. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter, Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me and fight the Most High battles. For Saul said, Let not my hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. Verse 18. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king?
Okay, so Saul sought for the Philistines to kill off David, thinking if he took him out there and put him over the company of, some men, that he would get killed in battle. Go ahead.
Verse 19. But it came to pass at that time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Mahalathite to wife. That's it.
Okay. So let's see. Let's get some more First Samuel scripts. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 19 and hit a few verses out of chapter 19. Let's start at 1 and 2.
1 Samuel chapter 19, 1 and 2. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul, my father seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself.
Once again, Saul trying to kill David. Let's skip down a couple verses and go to verse 10.
Verse 10. And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night.
Okay. David must have had some good agility. He's used to being in battle, ducking and dodging weapons. So hit verse 11.
Verse 11. Saul also sent messengers unto David's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow thou shalt be slain.
Okay, one more verse out of chapter 19. Let's hit 15.
Verse 15. And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed that I may slay him.
So we can clearly see that David had his hands full dealing with King Saul, just trying to stay alive to become king. And he spent a lot of time fleeing from also his son Absalom. Let's go check out a few scripts with that, Ahch. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 15 and let's hit verses 13 through 23. This is after David became king. He still had to continue to flee from time to time, depending on what the situation was.
2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 13. And there came a messenger to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. Verse 14, and David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. Verse 15, and the king's servants said unto the king, behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. And the king went forth and all his household after him. And the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house.
That king is David. Continue.
Verse 17, and the king went forth and all the people after him and tarried in a place that was afar off. Verse 18, and all his servants passed on beside him, and all the Kerethites and all the Pelethites and all the Gittites, 600 men which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Verse 17, then said the king to AHAYAH the Gittite, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile.
So Absalom sought for the kingdom, and he was actually winning over a lot of the countrymen. You know, they kind of liked Absalom, and he sought to kill his dad and take over the kingdom. Let's continue with a couple more scripts in 2 Samuel. Let's go to the next chapter, chapter 16, and hit verse 20.
2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 20. Then said Absalom to Ahithophel, give counsel among you what we shall do.
Okay, and chapter 19, verse 8.
2 Samuel chapter 19, verse 8. Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told unto all the people, saying, behold, the king doeth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent.
Okay, so David definitely had his hands full trying to flee. Okay, so we know that David had to flee several times, and I had a few people, you know, when I got into discussions with them, they want to bring up the book of Psalms and how, you know, David talked about how the Most High was his shield and his buckler. Let's get those scripts out real quick, because he is our shield and our buckler, but we still are commanded to flee when the time is come to flee. Let's go to Psalms 18 and 2. I'll get some of these shield and buckler scriptures.
Psalm 18, verse 2. The Most High AHAYAH is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my power, my strength in whom I will trust, my buckler and the horn of my salvation and my high tower.
Excuse me, I'm correct. Let's go to 28 and 7.
Psalms 28, verse 7. The Most High AHAYAH is my strength and my shield. My heart trusted in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoiceth, and with my song will I praise him.
We have to trust in him and the scriptures that he has for us to do the things that we have to do to get into the safe zone and flee. He is our shield and our buckler. But as you can see clearly, this is Psalms of David, and David had to flee several times throughout his life. Let's go to Psalms 91 and hit verses 1 through 4.
Psalms 91, verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Verse 2. I will say of the Most High, he is my refuge and my fortress. My power, in him will I trust. Verse 3.
Our power in him will he trust. He is our refuge. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence.
Okay. He will deliver us from the noise of the pestilence and the fowler. But we also have to physically do things for ourselves. We can't just sit back and tempt the Most High to do everything we need to get done for us. Just like Christ, we just went over those scriptures, or we will, excuse me. And even Christ had to flee, to fulfill his destiny and to fulfill prophecy. Let's get one more script in Psalms. Let's go to, were you done with that?
Verse 4.
I'm sorry, Salakia. Go ahead.
Verse 4, he shall cover thee with his feathers, under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
Okay, his truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. His truth. So when we get these scriptures out and you see what his truth is, that is his shield and his buckler. Let's get one more in Psalms. That's chapter 119 and 114 now.
Psalms chapter 119, 114. Thou art my hiding place and my shield. I hope in thy word.
Okay. So, even though David constantly prayed and sang to the Most High of him being his shield, his resting place, his refuge, he still had to flee numerous times. And so will we, because we're going to have to be like pilgrims on this earth. You flee here, you stay for a second, then you probably have to flee again, and then probably have to flee again. So we're not to stay complacent. Let's check out another one of our ancestors. Let's see Christ also, the Son of the Most High, also had to flee from time to time in order to fulfill prophecy and only to be killed later in life. We can start off with his birth. And that's in Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 through 16. At any time, Yashaya could have called on multitudes of angels to come down and wreak havoc on man, but he only sought to do his Father's will. So from time to time, periodically, he had to duck and dodge and flee from people trying to kill him. Go ahead, Ahch.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Most High appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Okay, so King Herod had heard from prophecy that the Savior was born and that he would rule the earth. And so King Herod sought to kill him immediately after he was born. Go ahead.
Verse 14, when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. Verse 15, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Most High by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son.
Okay, so we know that in Egypt, they served many gods and worshiped many idols. But there are times when the Most High commands us to flee to certain nations. And even though they are not worshiping the Most High, you are to stay worshiping the Most High. You are to continue with the commandments and the laws and the statutes no matter where you are on this earth. Let's see what happens when King Herod dies, and let's go to stay in chapter 2, hit verses 19 and 20.
Verse 19, but when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Most High appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. Okay,
so after King Herod and anybody else he put out to kill Yashaya, the spirit came and told Joseph that you can go back to Israel now, back to the Holy Land, and you'll be safe there. So see a couple other times when Yashaya had to flee for his safety. Let's go to Luke. And let's go to chapter 4. And let's hit verses 16 through 18, and then we'll skip over to 28 and 30.
Okay, Luke 4, verses 16. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Verse 17. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written. Verse 18. The Spirit of the Most High is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of the sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised.
One more. Hit 19.
19. To preach the acceptable year of the Lord.
Okay. Skip down to 28 and 30.
Verse 28. And all they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath. 29. And rose up and thrust him out of the city, and led him unto the brow of the hill, whereon their city was built, that they might cast him down headlong.
Okay, so they sought to throw him over a cliff. And continue, next verse.
Verse 30, but he passing through the midst of them went his way.
So he had to flee out of the midst of them to avoid getting thrown off a cliff at that time. And this is our Savior, the Son of the Most High, having to flee so that he would not, so to escape persecution and death before his due time. So let's get a couple more scripts to show that he had to flee. Let's go to John chapter 8 and see how even the Jews that believed on him turned and wanted to kill him. Let's hit John chapter 8 verse 31.
John chapter 8 verse 31. Then said Yashaya to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed.
Go ahead.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
Okay, let's skip down to 57 and 59.
Verse 57. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Yashaya said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Verse 59. Then took they up stones to cast at him, but Yashaya hid himself, and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by.
Okay, once again, slipping through the midst of them, just to get away, just to fulfill prophecy later. Stay in John and go to chapter 10 up. And let's hit scriptures 22 and 23. Several times our Savior Yashaya had to flee to get out of danger.
John chapter 10 verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And Yashaya walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. That's it.
Okay, jump down to 39.
Verse 39. Therefore they sought again to take him, but he escaped out of their hand.
Once again, escaping out of their hands. Let's go to the next chapter, John 11, hit verses 7 and 8.
John chapter 11 verse 7. Then after that saith he to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. Verse 8. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again?
Okay, so his disciples are saying, they sought to stone you the last time you were there, and you're trying to go back there again. That's just a little precept to what we just read. So we can see that there's several other of our forefathers that had to flee from time to time. Just wanted to show you two important ones, because if they had to flee, what makes you think that we won't have to flee in the right proper circumstance and in time? So We have a lot of scripts where the Most High is commanding us to flee. We are scattered across the whole entire earth, and we're not in our homeland. And to be protected, we have to get back to a certain area where he will protect us when things break down. And that's not too far away. You know, we can see the signs going on today all over the earth. All the plagues have already started. His anger and his wrath has already started taking place. And he is commanding us to get out of these lands where we were orphans and get back to the lands where he will protect us. We're like refugees in these lands. What's the word he uses?
Pilgrims.
Pilgrims, and there's another word that doesn't come to me right now. I'll think of it.
Outcasts.
Yeah, outcasts. We're the outcast of the earth because everywhere we are is not where we're supposed to be. So he calls us his outcast. And we'll get to those scriptures also. So let's start off with Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah 48:6 and see where the Most High is commanding us to be in these last days.
Jeremiah chapter 48, verse 6. Flee, save your lives, and be like the heath in the wilderness.
Okay, be like the heath in the wilderness. You're going to see that that's a recurring theme, the wilderness, as we continue with these scripts. Let's stay in Jeremiah and let's hit chapter 51. 51:6.
Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Most High's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense.
Flee every man his soul out of the midst of Babylon. And we know Babylon today is also known as America. Let's stay in Jeremiah and jump down to 44 and 45.
Okay. Jeremiah 51, verse 44. And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. Verse 45. My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Most High AHAYAH.
Okay. Go out of the midst of her. Physically, like Christ had to run through the midst of the people. This is a physical action. Not only spiritual, because if you're not spiritually right, no matter where you go, trouble's going to hit you and it's not going to be good for you. So we always have to be spiritually right. But these commands are physical. Leaving one space and getting up and moving into another, as we will continue to see. Let's go to Zechariah and hit the second chapter, Salakia. We're going to hit the 6th through the 8th verses.
Zechariah chapter 2, verse 6. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north.
From where?
From the land of the north, saith the Most High. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith the Most High AHAYAH.
Okay, we got a lot of doctrines out there. People saying, telling the children of Israel to go to Africa. That's where the homeland is. Not true. We're going to dispel that myth today. They're saying stay in Babylon, a.k.a. America, because that was our homeland and that we'll get salvation there. Not true either. We're going to dispel that myth. The land of the north, come out of her. That is a landmass and it's a physical action. Come out of her, flee from the land of the north. Is that all we got for Zechariah?
Verse 7. Deliver thyself, O Zion.
Deliver thyself, O Zion. means you have to physically get up and move, deliver yourself. Go ahead.
That dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
Okay, that dwelleth in the daughter of Babylon, the land of the north. Deliver thyself.
Verse 8, for thus saith the Most High of hosts, after the glory have he sent me unto the nations which spoil you. For he that toucheth you, toucheth the apple of his eye.
Okay. So the scriptures can't get any clearer than that. Let's go to Second Esdras in your Apocryphas and get some scripts from there to get some elaboration on what the Most High is actually telling us to do and where he's telling us to go. In the book of Second Esdras, chapter 16, we're going to hit verses 40 and 41.
Second Esdras, chapter 16, verse 40. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth.
Be as pilgrims on the earth in those days, constantly moving around, fleeing from one place to another. When things break down,
Verse 41, he that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away.
He that selleth needs to be like he that is fleeing away. So if you're settling, you're staying somewhere. But if you're fleeing, you're moving somewhere. So a lot of people have, beliefs that this flee thing means just to spiritually flee. And you can stay where you're at. But this script right here clearly says, if you're like you're settling, then act like you're fleeing, because we need to flee instead of settle somewhere. Keep going on.
And he that buyeth as one that will lose.
Okay, so if you're sitting, settling, and just buying new cars, buying new houses, putting on cement boots in wherever land you're at, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Read that verse again out, please.
Verse 41, he that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose.
Okay, so he that buyeth will be like one that will lose everything that he has bought. So we're not to get comfortable in these exiled lands. Is that all you got for that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's
got 42. My bad. Slakia.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 42. He that occupieth merchandise as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein.
Okay. So if you're buying merchandise and you're building, you're doing some fruitless acts because you're not going to be able to dwell therein. Let's jump down to verses 72 through 78.
Verse 72, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire.
Okay, so they will come in and they will rob and pillage your houses. And that's when you will really be tried and tested on who is really with the Most High and who really isn't. You don't want to have to be in that situation, making that type of choice.
Mm-hmm. Verse 74, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Most High, AHAYAH, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same.
Okay, he will deliver us from the same if we pay attention. Go ahead.
Verse 74 again. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Most High, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Verse 75. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide.
Okay, the Most High is your guide. The key word in that phrase is guide. If you listen to the Most High and let him guide you to the area of where we are supposed to gather, then you will be okay. You will be protected, like the scriptures was just telling you right here. Go ahead, Ahch.
Verse 76, in the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Most High power, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves.
Okay, the guide of them that keeps his commandments and his precepts. Let not your sins weigh you down. Because if your sins are weighing you down, you're not doing these commandments and you're not living in the Spirit, and he will not guide you properly.
Verse 77, woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through.
So woe to them that are bound in their sins, because they will not get the guidance needed to maneuver through these end days. And that is very, very crucial. So you don't be laden down with your sins, because if you are, you're not going to get the guidance that you need from the Most High. Very well said, Ahch.
Verse 78, it is left undressed and is cast into the fire to be consumed therewith.
Okay.
That's it on that.
So the burdens and you will be cast into the fire, and you don't want that. So let's see here. Let's go to Revelations chapter 18 and get some idea of where we are to flee.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the book of Revelations, chapter 18, verse 4.
Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people.
Come out of her, my people.
That ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
Okay. Come out of her, my people, that ye not partake of her sins. So that is a spiritual act. You have to live in the Spirit so that you're not sinning along with the rest of the nations. But you have to come out of her physically, that you do not partake of her plagues. The plagues that are already coming upon the whole entire earth. If you sit where you're at, you are going to have to partake of the plagues also, because they're not going to discriminate. Let's go to chapter 12. I'll hit some verses and let's see about the woman and where she is laid for a time.
Okay.
We're in the book of Revelations, chapter 12, verses 6 through 10.
All right. Revelation, chapter 12, verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of the Most High, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
The woman is Israel. When they talk about the woman, they are referring to the nation of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 7, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. Verse 8, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Verse 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of AHAYAH, and the power of his anointed Yashaya. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. That's it in that.
All right, let's stay in chapter 12. Let's hit verses 14 through 17.
Okay. Verse 14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent.
Into the wilderness, where she will be nourished for a time and times and half a time.
Verse 15, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
Okay, water meaning a multitude of doctrines confusing the nation of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 16, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
Okay, reminds me of them finding the Dead Sea Scrolls in them Qumran caves out of the earth, bringing this true doctrine to the people, letting them know what is expected of them in these last days. Go ahead.
Verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of AHAYAH and have the testimony of Yashaya the anointed.
Okay, so we are at war with Satan, the ones who keep his commandments. We are at war. The remnant of her seed that are doing things correctly. We got a precept for that. Was that 17?
Yeah, 17.
Okay, let's get a precept for that in Jeremiah chapter 48 and verse 28.
Jeremiah chapter 48 verse 28. O ye that dwell in Moab, leave the cities and dwell in the rock, and be like the dove that maketh her nest in the sides of the hole's mouth.
Okay, one more time for that.
Verse 28. O ye that dwell in Moab, leave the cities and dwell in the rock, and be like the dove that maketh her nest in the sides of the hole's mouth.
Okay, those that dwell in Moab, flee to the rocks. This area, Moab, Ammon, and Eden, you will see will be mentioned very, very often throughout these scripts. This is the place in the land where we are supposed to be, waiting on our Father to send Yashaya to have battle with these devil nations. So let's see here. Let's hit Isaiah for a precept. Isaiah 16, 1 through 4.
Isaiah 16 verse 1. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Petra, to the wilderness unto the mount of the daughter of Zion.
Send ye to the land of Petra. What's another name for the land of Petra?
Selah.
Selah. Look that word up in the Strong's, the Hebrew, and you will see that that word means Petra, a place in Edom. Go ahead.
Verse 2, for it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab should be at the forest of Arnon. Verse 3, take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday, hide the outcasts, berate not him that wandereth.
Okay, hide the outcasts, the children of Israel who are outcast from every nation on this earth.
Verse 4, let my outcasts dwell with thee, Moab. Be thou a cover to them from the face of the spoiler.
Be thou a what?
Covered to them from the face of the spoiler.
He is commanding the children of Moab to be as a covering to us from the spoiler. Go ahead.
For the extortioner is at an end, the spoiler ceaseth, the oppressors are consumed out of the land.
Okay. So the oppressors will be ceased from out of the land. He is commanding the children of Moab to cover us and hide us. And that land is modern day Jordan. We got some more scripts for you. Let's go to Isaiah 13 and let's hit verses 9 through 14.
Isaiah chapter 13 verse 9. Behold, the day of the Most High cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it.
He will destroy the sinners from out of it. Go ahead.
Verse 10. For the stars of heaven and the constellation thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Verse 11, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
He will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease and the haughtiness of those that are haughty to stop.
Verse 12, I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Verse 13, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Most High of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. Verse 14, and it should be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land.
Okay, he's going to shake the earth, and he's commanding his people to get out of the way. Let's hit Isaiah chapter 11 and 14th verse.
Isaiah chapter 11 verse 14.
Let's hit 13 first.
13? Okay. Verse 13. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. Verse 14. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines towards the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them.
They're going to lay their hands on where?
Philistines towards the west, they shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hands upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them.
Edom, Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey. That is modern day Jordan. We got a precept for that too, right? In Daniel. Daniel 11, start at the 40th verse. And you know where to go. It's a precept for what we just read in Isaiah about the land of Edom, Moab, and Ammon. Mm-hmm. This is the Most High letting us know where we should be when when he shakes the earth and these nations are destroying each other, where we're supposed to be in safety.
Yes, sir. Daniel chapter 11 verse 40. And at that time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the country and shall overflow and pass over. Verse 41. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown.
The glorious land is Israel. So we are not to go into Israel when things get rough and hectic out here and these nations are destroying each other, because that place will be destroyed also. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Verse 41 again. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and
Moab,
and the chief of the children of Ammon.
And the chief of the children of Ammon. Once again, he's telling us, these shall escape out of his hand. When things are going hectic and these nations are destroying each other in World War III, which has already started, it just hasn't gone full blown yet. Mm-hmm. These are the places that shall escape out of his hand. Edom, Moab, and the chief children of Ammon, the modern day Jordan area. Mm-hmm. I mean, wake up, people. He's telling us exactly where he wants us to go to get out of the way of what's coming up and to avoid calamity and danger.
Verse 42.
Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 42. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape.
So Egypt will not escape. Nowhere will be safe except Moab, Edom, and the chief children of Ammon, as it said, these will escape out of his hand, and none other. Let's see, let's get some extra biblical text. And let's go. You want to go second Esdras first? Or, yeah.
It's your call.
Let's go to second Esdras. Hit chapter 9, verses 4 through 7. They took these books out because these books clearly state how we're supposed to maneuver. And they don't want us to know this, Israel. That's why they hid these books and took them out of the scriptures.
Second Esdras chapter 9 verse 4. Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Verse 5. For like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Verse 6. Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works and endings and effects and signs. Verse 7. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed. Verse 8. Shall be preserved from the said pearls, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning.
Okay, read those last two verses again, Ahch. This is very, very crucial information right here.
Verse 7. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said pearls, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning.
Within his land, within his borders, those that shall be able to escape through their works, doing this work, keeping these laws and commandments. Let's jump to chapter 12 and hit verse 34.
Second Esdras chapter 12 verse 34. For the rest of my people shall be delivered with mercy, those that have been preserved upon my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, whereof I have spoken unto thee from the beginning.
Okay. Get one more out of second Esdras, chapter 13, verses 48 and 49.
Second Esdras chapter 13 verse 48. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders.
Okay, so we know that the rapture deception that they put out there for us tells you that if you are left behind, that somehow you are cursed. But like we went over in last week's lesson, you know, I would suggest you watch that video. You are more blessed to be left behind, because those that were not left behind were burdened in heaviness, and you know their sins outweighed them, and they were not able to get the guidance needed from the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 49. Now when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain.
He shall defend his people that remain, that are left behind. Is that it for that, Ahch? Okay, let's go to Matthew, back in the Canticles. By the way, for anybody that doesn't know, second Esdras is in the Apocrypha books, which means hidden. The books that the Roman Catholics purposely took out to keep us asleep, and so that we wouldn't know how to maneuver in these last days. They were once in the canonical books, but were taken out probably around 325 AD when Flavius Constantine had the conference in Nicaea. I advise you to check into that also. Let's go to Matthew 24 and start at the 15th verse.
Matthew chapter 24 verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand.
Spoken by Daniel. We just read Daniel and what his prophecy was. So this is Christ talking here. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Verse 17. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house.
Okay, so we are to flee to the mountains of Judea, which is also in this area, Petra and surrounding area. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Neither let him which is in the field return back to his Salakia. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
Okay, so when this thing breaks down, we are to just go. Don't go back trying to gather all your belongings and, just get up and go. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Absolutely, because it's going to be hard enough trying to get yourself out of the way, let alone if you have small children that are not weaned yet or toddlers. It's going to be tough enough just trying to maneuver yourself. Was that it?
You going down to 22 or?
Yeah, good.
Okay, verse 20. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
Okay, so this tribulation is going to be like nothing ever that ever happened on the earth and never will happen again. It's going to be the roughest period in the history of the earth, future, past, or present.
Verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
Okay. If the Most High doesn't send Christ early, there wouldn't be any flesh left. But because of the elect's sake, the ones doing these laws, doing the work, keeping the holy days, honoring the Sabbath, keeping your diet tight, those are the elect. And for the elect's sake, he will shorten these days. All praises to the Father for that. So we got a bunch of precepts for this. Let's go to Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. Let's hit all these precepts so we can see exactly the Most High is commanding us to make a physical act and get yourselves up and move out of the way.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of AHAYAH, even to Horeb. Verse 2. And the angel of the Most High appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed.
At the mount of the Most High, Horeb, the holy mountain. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, while the bush is not burnt. Verse 4. And the Most High AHAYAH saw that he turned aside to see. The Most High called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. Verse 5. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
Okay, it's holy ground. That's his holy mountain. And that is the holy place.
Yes, sir.
Let's
yes, indeed.
Let's stay in the Canticles and hit Deuteronomy 32 and 51.
Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 51.
Go ahead.
Because ye trespass against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because ye sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel.
Okay, so once again, Horeb, the wilderness of Zin or Sin, depending on what book you're reading, the Septuagint or other readings, it's either Zin or Sin. It's talking about the same place. As you can see, the Mount of Horeb, where he struck the rock and made the water come out for the Israelites. Let's go to Jasher, the book of Jasher, and get some more elaboration on this. The book of Jasher, chapter 79, verses 1 through 3. And if anybody doesn't have the book of Jasher, I suggest you get it. It elaborates so much more in depth on these biblical scriptures. You know, a lot of these stories in the Bible are kind of vague, but the book of Jasher really elaborates totally on a bunch of different stories in the Bible. You have to get that book. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ahch.
The book of Jasher, chapter 79, verse 1. And in those days Moses was feeding the flock of Reuel, the Midianite, his father-in-law, beyond the wilderness of Sin, and the stick which he took from his father-in-law was in his hand. Verse 2. And it came to pass one day that a kid of goats strayed from the flock, and Moses pursued it, and it came to the mountain of the Most High, to Horeb. Verse 3. And when he came to Horeb, the Most High AHAYAH appeared there unto him in the bush, and he found the bush burning with fire, but the fire had no power over the bush to consume it.
Okay, just what we just read in the Canticles. Is that it, Ahch?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're trying to show you these geographical locations where the holy mountain and the holy land is, and where let's go to chapter 84, hit verses 6 through 8, and skip around in chapter 84. But we're showing you these scriptures to show you that it's a certain place where he will protect us, and that is within his borders, under his holy mountain.
Mm-hmm. Book of Jasher, chapter 84, verse 6. Therefore the Most High said to the children of Israel, fight not against the children of Esau, your brethren, for nothing in their land belongs to you, but you may buy food of them for money and eat it, and you may buy water of them for water, for money, and drink it.
The same thing we have to do today. When you come over into this land of Jordan, that's how you're supposed to operate. Take nothing from the children of Ammon, but buy whatever goods you need to eat and drink, because nothing there belongs to us. Go ahead.
Verse 6 again. Therefore the Most High said to the children of Israel, fight not against the children of Esau, your brethren, for nothing in their land belongs to you, but you may buy food of them for money and eat it, and you may buy water of them for money and drink it. Verse 7. And the children of Israel did according to the word of the Most High. Verse 8. And the children of Israel went about the wilderness, going round by the way of Mount Sinai for a long time, and touched not the children of Esau, and they continue in that district for 19 years.
Okay, so we were on the borders of Edom for 19 years in the wilderness, being protected by our Heavenly Father, the Most High. To give you a geographical location. Is that it on that up?
Verse 23.
Yeah, let's go to 23 through 26.
Okay. Verse 23. At that time, all the children of Israel passed from the road of the wilderness of Moab and returned and surrounded the wilderness of Edom.
The wilderness of where?
Edom.
And before that, the wilderness of
Moab. Yes, sir.
That is the wilderness area where he's calling us back to. Go ahead.
Verse 24. So the whole congregation came to the wilderness of Sin in the first month of the 40th year from their departure from Egypt, and the children of Israel dwelt there in Kadesh of the wilderness of Sin, and Miriam died there, and she was buried there.
Okay, the wilderness of Sin in the borders of the wilderness of Moab and Edom.
And to mention, Moses went to the wilderness of Sin. So he came to Kadesh, which is where the mountain is at, according to the book of Yashaya.
Absolutely. Kadesh.
Yes, sir. Verse 25. At that time Moses sent messengers to Hadad, king of Edom, saying, Thus says thy brother Israel, Let me pass, I pray thee, through thy land. We will not pass through field or vineyard. We will not drink the water of the well. We will walk in the king's road. Verse 26. And Edom said to him, Thou shalt not pass through my country. And Edom went forth to meet the children of Israel with a mighty people.
Okay. Let's get a precept for that in Numbers. Book of Numbers.
Okay, we got one more.
One more? Okay, I'll bring it up.
27. And the children of Esau refused to let the children of Israel pass through their land, so the Israelites removed from them and fought not against them.
Okay. We stayed on the outskirts in the wilderness of Moab and Edom. That is the wilderness area.
You said number 21.
Yeah, 20 or 21?
20 and 1.
Here you go. Let's go to book of Numbers, chapter 20 and verse 1, and we'll skip down after that.
Okay. Numbers chapter 20, verse 1. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month, and the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there.
Okay, that's a precept to what we just read. The wilderness of Zin, Moab, Ammon, and Edom. Let's jump down to 13 through 17. It's redundant. The scriptures are telling you over and over again the wilderness area.
Verse 13. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Most High, and he was sanctified in them.
The waters of Meribah, and if you look that word up, it means strife. That's where he struck the rock in Horeb, Meribah.
Verse 14. And Moses sent messengers from Kadesh unto the king of Edom. Thus saith thy brother Israel, Thou knowest all the travail that have befallen us. Verse 15. How our fathers went down into Egypt, and we have dwelt in Egypt a long time, and the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers.
Okay, once again, Kadesh, Meribah, talking about the same area around Jordan.
Verse 16. And when we cried unto the Most High, he heard our voice, and sent an angel, and have brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we are in Kadesh, a city in the uttermost of thy border.
Okay, Kadesh, a city in the outermost of his borders. Let's see what else we got. Way to bring that.
Verse 17.
Okay, let's go.
Verse 17. Let us pass, I pray thee, through thy country. We will not pass through the fields or through the vineyards, neither will we drink of the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway. We will not turn to the right hand nor to the left until we have passed thy borders.
Okay, so we have a few scriptures left that we're going to bring home, and we'll close out this lesson. Let's go to the pseudepigraphica.
Yes, sir.
Let's get some scripts out of there. And you see how these scripts in the extra biblical texts, as they call them, which were in the original, line up right with the scriptures. Just gives you a little bit more in-depthness on what actually was going on. Mm-hmm. Just more of an elaboration to help us understand properly. We're going to go to 4th Ezra. Let's go to chapter 12, hit verses 34 through 39.
4th Ezra, chapter 12, verse 34.
Go ahead, Ahch.
But my people who survive he shall deliver with mercy, even those who have been saved throughout my borders. And he shall make them joyful until the end come, even the day of judgment of which I have spoken unto thee from the beginning.
I don't think they heard that, Ahch.
I said it one more again. Verse 34, but my people who survive he shall deliver with mercy, even those who have been saved throughout my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the end come, even the day of judgment, of which I have spoken unto thee from the beginning.
Okay.
This is the dream that thou didst see, and this is its interpretation. Thou alone hast been found worthy to learn this mystery of the Most High. Therefore write all these things that thou hast seen in the book, and put them in a secret place, and thou shalt teach them to the wise of the people, whose hearts thou knowest are able to comprehend and keep these mysteries.
The mysteries of the Most High. Is that it, Ahch?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go stay in 4th Ezra, and let's go to the 13th chapter and hit verse 48.
4th Ezra, chapter 13, verse 48. Therefore thou didst see a multitude gathered together in peace, but the survivors of thy people, even those who are found within my holy border.
The who of his people?
The survivors of thy people, even those who are found within my holy border, shall be saved.
Found within his holy borders shall be saved. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of doctrines out there confusing our people. These scriptures right here should bring it all into clarity. You know, you can't get any more clear than these scriptures coming out right now. The borders, where the borders are, and how you can be saved. Let's go to, stay in the pseudepigraphica. Let's go to 2nd Baruch, chapter 29. Because there's no one else bringing out this information. No one.
Okay.
You're hearing it first, and live and direct, right here. Go ahead, Ahch. 2nd Baruch, let's hit 29, chapter 29, verses 1 through 8.
2nd Baruch, chapter 29, verse 1. And he answered and said unto me, whatever will then befall will befall the whole earth. Therefore all who live will experience them. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those self-same days in this land.
Okay. So when it all breaks down, he's only going to protect those found in the land.
Yes, sir. And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was come to pass in those parts, that the Messiah shall then begin to be revealed. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time, and then they shall be for food for all that are left.
Listen to this, y'all. We're going to be chilling, eating Leviathan, along with a lot of other great things. We're just going to be chilling in peace.
God. Verse 6. The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there should be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape produce a core of wine, and those who have hungered shall rejoice.
Wow. Read that one again, huh?
Come. The earth also shall yield its fruits 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape produce a core of wine.
Each cluster, 1,000. I mean, that's just, can't even fathom that. Each grape will be able to make a vat of wine. That's crazy. There'll be 1,000 branches yielding 1,000 clusters. Sheesh.
Most High going to take care of us.
Oh yeah, he's going to take care of us if we make it into his safe zone underneath his holy mountain within his borders. If you don't make it there, we just read, he's not going to protect you anywhere else. Nowhere else. We just read it. Was that it on that?
Verse 7, and those who have hunger shall rejoice. Moreover, also, they shall behold marvels every day. For winds shall go forth from before me to bring every morning the fragrance of aromatic fruits, and at the close of the day clouds distilling the dew of health. And it shall come to pass at that selfsame time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high.
Wow. We're going to start getting manna again, along with all these other great things to eat. He's going to start raining manna back down on us.
And they will eat of it in those years, because these are they who have come to the consummation of time.
These are they who have come to the consummation of time. They made it to the end of time. Sitting back, eating luscious things, grapes the size of one state. It's going to be crazy, incredible, you know, if you make it inside the borders. If you don't, it ain't going to be pretty for you. But if you do, it's going to be lovely. Is that all we got for that one up? Okay, let's close it out with a couple scripts here. Bring some more precepts to this thing about the wilderness and where, just in case they didn't get it the first time, let's get some more scripts out of Ezekiel. And hammer it home on where they are supposed to be. Where we at? Ezekiel 20? Let's go to verses 33 through 36.
Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 33. As I live, saith the Most High, AHAYAH, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out.
We scattered all over the earth, y'all.
Verse 35, and I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. Verse 36, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Most High, AHAYAH.
Okay, once again, the wilderness of the people. We've been hearing that since the first scripts we brought out. The wilderness is the place where we will be protected for a time, times and half a time. Go ahead, Ahch.
That's it on that.
Okay, let's get another precept, because they might have forgot already where the wilderness is at. Let's hit them with Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 46.
Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 46. So ye abode in Kadesh many days, according unto the days that ye abode there.
In Kadesh. We already discussed where Kadesh is. Go ahead.
That's it on that.
Oh, okay. Let's hit chapter 2 and verse 14.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 14. In the space in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we came over the brook Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of men of war were wasted out from among the hosts, as the Most High sware unto them. Okay,
so we were in Kadesh, in the wilderness, came out of Egypt for 40 years. That's where the wilderness was, and that's where the wilderness still is.
Come.
And I think we got one more for him in Joshua. 15:1, 14:7.
Yeah, let me get there. Joshua 15 says.
Yes, sir. Joshua 15:1.
Okay. Oh, you also got Joshua 14.
Mm-hmm. Which one you want to hit first, huh? Let's hit 14 and 7.
About to say, it's on you. You call the shot.
Let's go with 14 and 7.
Right. Joshua chapter 14, verse 7. 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Most High, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in my heart.
Okay, we were in Kadesh when they sent Joshua to spy out the land of Canaan. That's the wilderness. Let's hit 15:1.
Joshua chapter 15, verse 1. This then was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah by their families, even to the border of Edom. The wilderness of Zin southward was the uttermost part of the south coast.
The border of Edom, the wilderness of Zin. Way to bring it to them out. And on that note, I would like to say thank you for everyone who tuned in. And I hope and pray that this brought a lot of clarity to those who were uncertain about what they should do. Should they stay in Babylon, aka America? Should they stay in these other lands that we are outcasted from? We are the outcast. We are to get out of these lands and make it into the safe zones. Deliver thyself, O Zion. So with that, I would like to say this is Rawchaa, and we have Makaahla Ahnah, the Meek One, saying peace and shalom be unto you.
Yes, all praise, glory, and honor goes to AHAYAH, Yashaya, Kadesh, my family in Babylon. I love you, my Israelite family. I love y'all, my family here in Jordan. You know who you are. I love y'all too. Shalom, peace and blessings be upon you.